Alrighty. This is not ESPN's 30 for 30. However, it is my 98 for 98. The 98 seasons in the history of the New York Football Giants. Going to try to get it done in 98 days. Let me switch it. There you go. A little bit better. Probably not going to get it done in 98 days. However, I am going to get it done before the beginning of the regular season, which starts September 10th against those Dallas Cowboys. And we're, unfortunately, sadly, we've left the Bill Parcells era behind, and we're entering the Ray Handley era. So sad. Thankfully, it was only for 2 seasons. Thankfully. Thank you, Jesus. It kind of reminds me a little bit like, what the Giants had in the 1950s. They had, a couple Hall of Fame, to be Hall of Fame assistant coaches on their staff, and they just let them go. They went to other clubs. The Giants had Vince Lombardi, quite awfully possibly regarded as the greatest coach of all time. And they had Tom Landry. And, Vince Lombardi went to the Packers. Tom Landry went to the Cowboys. And it kind of reminds you a little bit of like what happened here. The Giants had, well, I can't say 3 Hall of Fame coaches because only one's in the Hall. 2 the other one's going to be in the Hall. Death, taxes, and Bill Belichick getting in the Hall of Fame. Guarantee. Tom Coughlin should be in the Hall of Fame. If he's not, they just might as well just knock the Hall of Fame down and just not even have it because he deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. So I'm going to go out on a limb here and say the Giants had 3 Hall of Fame coaches on their staff in 1990, and they all went bye-bye. Bill Parcells retired for the first of 3,982 times. He come out of retirement to coach the Patriots, and he retired. Then he came out of retirement to coach the Jets, and he retired. Then he came out of retirement to coach the Cowboys, and he retired. But after the 1990 season, the Giants had Tom Coughlin, who was their wide receiver coach, and they didn't get him. He went to he was the head coach of went to Boston College, where he was their quarterback coach in the early 80s, 81 to 83. He was in Boston. Maybe might have been there like their quarterback coach, I think it was. So he went back there to be the head coach. And then, of course, Bill Belichick left to go coach the Cleveland Browns. He was there from 91 to 95. He was there. He was the Browns head coach the final season Cleveland was in Cleveland until they went to go to Baltimore. And then so he was there for 5 seasons. But unfortunately, the Giants didn't wind up hiring either one of those. They wound up hiring Ray Handley. Where are we at here? Here we go. So let's read a little bit on Ray Handley, shall we? New York Giants. We got here. On February 28, 1984, Handley was named the offensive backfield coach of the Giants under Parcells, beginning a 7-year stretch that saw the team captured 2 Super Bowls. In 1990, after coming close to leaving coaching to enter George Washington University Law School, Handley was promoted to the offensive coordinator. Maybe we should have let him go to the George Washington University of Law School. Just let him go there. Following the Giants' second title in Super Bowl 25, Parcells announced his retirement, and Handley was then promoted to the first head coaching position, to his first head coaching and his last. Apparently, according to Wikipedia, after 92, he never coached again. So he was there, promoted as their first head coaching position on May 15th, 1991. So after Parcells retired, it took him until May 15th, 1991 to name a coach. George Young picked Handley. This is from Wikipedia, so yeah, it could be a little off, but we'll see. George Young picked Handley to serve as the head coach of the Giants after then Giants defensive coordinator Bill Belichick left to coach the Cleveland Browns. The bad relationship between George Young and Bill Belichick also played into Handley's promotion. Young had consistently given a negative review about Belichick when teams with potential coaching opportunities inquired about him, and he never felt his defensive coordinator had the leadership abilities to run his own team. Well, as they say in The Water Boy, Mama's wrong again, isn't she? Way to go, George. Way to go. Yeah, I don't think he can coach a team. His Bill Belichick kind of guy here. I don't think he's got it in him. Way to go, George. All right. In addition, Tom Coughlin, whom Young had considerable respect for and would probably have promoted after Parcells' departure, if the timing had worked out, Tom Coughlin quickly moved after the Super Bowl and was hired as the head coach at Boston College. So possibly, just possibly, if Boston College maybe wasn't looking for a head coach, maybe the Giants might have hired Tom Coughlin in 1991, but it was not. Tom Coughlin was the Giants' wide receiver coach. So we have here 1990. Bill Belichick was the defense coordinator. Tom Coughlin was the wide receiver coach. Ray Hanley was the well, it is here it says the I don't know. And this thing I got here, it says Ron Earhart was the offensive coordinator. Ray Hanley was a running back coach in 1990, but I mean here in Wikipedia, it says in 1990, after coming close to leaving, Hanley was promoted to the offensive coordinator. So it is. It's not exactly sure. I mean, I'd have a hard time believing that they would just promote a running back coach to become the head coach. So it is what it is. But so I mean, there were Ray Hanley in his on his coaching staff had some decent coaches. I mean, one guy you might know would be Al Groh, who became the new defensive coordinator in 1991. And Al Groh is what is it, Mike Groh or Steve Groh? So Al Groh was the defensive coordinator for the Giants in 1991. And of course, our wide receiver coach right now is what's his Mike Groh. So Al Groh, the father of Mike Groh, was our defensive coordinator in 1991. Let's see here. Whoops. Okay. But I mean, also, we had Romeo Crennel was a defensive line coach. Somebody else you might have heard of, our offensive coordinator was some guy by the name of Jim Fossil, who would become the Giants head coach. Let's see. Ray Hanley was the head coach. Some guy by the name of Charlie Weiss was the running back coach who had a lot of success with the Patriots. He also became the Notre Dame head coach. So they had some decent coaches, but unfortunately, Ray Hanley was not a good head coach. All right. Let's start off. Let's see the 1991 season here. The Giants. Let's go to the preseason here. The first game that Giants played against the Buffalo Bills was on August 5th, 1991 against the Bills at home. Giants won 23-17. Then they would play the Cleveland Browns on the road on August 10th in Cleveland Stadium. They would lose 16-10. Then the Giants were at home, if you want to call that, against the Jets on August 17th. They beat the Jets 24-10. And then the final game of the preseason, the New York Giants faced the New England Patriots in Foxborough, Massachusetts. They would lose 24-3. So the Giants were 2-2 in the preseason. Now this is where, unfortunately, things started happening here where the drafts, that George Young started having, especially the first round picks. We're not exactly banner picks. And as time wore on, the cupboard started. He had a couple nice picks. Don't get me wrong. Before he wound up leaving, okay? Like, obviously, he drafted Jesse Armstead, Michael Strahan, Tiki Barber. So he went up with some good picks. But, for the most part, the cupboard started getting bare because he had like 4 or 5 first-round picks in a row that were just horrible. Absolutely horrible. And we'll start with this one right here. Let me hold on. Give me a second here. Let me get to the draft page here. All right. I mean, so in the first round of the 1991 draft, where did the Giants? They had to be picking last, right? They picked number. All right. So they were picking number 20. Actually, somebody must have forfeited their pick, as it says here the Giants were drafted number 27. So somebody must have forfeited a pick in the first round for some reason. Don't know who it was. But anyway, so the Giants took fullback. Oh, yeah, a fullback, Jared Bunch. The Giants said, I don't know. There was some reason they were in some kind of love with Michigan running backs. Butch Wolfolk, they took in the first round. Jared Bunch, the fullback, they took in the first round. Tyrone Wheatley, they took in the first round. I mean, I don't know what it was, but none of them had a major impact with the Giants. And they took three guys in the first round, and one of them was a fullback who lasted 4 seasons with the Giants. Jared Bunch. Let's see, what did he do? I mean, my God. I mean, they had just taken Rodney Hampton in 1990. All right. Now, hey, let's get him a fullback in the first round, right? Yeah, there you go. Yeah. No, George, no. Oh, actually, he only played 3 seasons. He played his final season with the Raiders. So Jared Bunch, right? We took in the first round. In 3 seasons, he started. What do we got? Actually, 1991, he played in all 16 games. He started 1 game for the Giants in 1991. Our first round pick started 1 game. The second season, he started in 13 games. His final season with the Giants, he played in 8. It started in 8. He had, what did he have? He had 629 yards rushing for the Giants in 3 seasons. He had 138 carries for 629 yards. I mean, it just goes to show. I'm saying it's just this the cupboard just started getting bare. This draft was not very good at all. It was not very good at all. Okay. Starting with Jared Bunch, a fullback in the first round. Second round pick, the New York Giants took Kenavis McGee. I remember him, but he did not ever pan out. He played 5 seasons, right? 5, yeah. Let's see. He was a linebacker. Was it all with the Giants? Nope. He played 3 seasons with the Giants, and he played with Cincinnati and then Houston. So he played 3 seasons. So our second round pick played 2 seasons with the Giants. 3 seasons with the Giants. So basically, swing and a miss with the first round pick, swing and a miss with the second round pick. He was second round pick. Our second round pick, Kenavis McGee, started in 2 games for the Giants. Swing and a miss, right? This is where George Young just started going downhill. I mean, all right. So then in the third round, got to keep petting my dog. Oh, boy. All right, third round, it took Ed McCaffrey. Okay, so that was a good pick. So actually, the third round pick wound up being better than the first and second rounds combined, okay? However, unfortunately, with Ed McCaffrey, a lot of his success came with the Denver Broncos, not with the New York Giants. Let's see. He played 3 seasons with the Giants, and he started in 4 games with the Giants. Unbelievable. Absolutely unbelievable. They couldn't find a spot for him. Well, then he played 1 season with the 49ers, and then he played how many? He played 9 seasons with the Denver Broncos. He started in 105 games for the Denver Broncos in 9 seasons. He had 462 catches, 6,200 receiving yards, 46 touchdown receptions with the Denver Broncos, and somehow the Giants could not find a spot for him. Absolutely pathetic. Absolutely, unbelievably pathetic. All right. So that's the third round pick. Now the fourth round pick. All right. I want to make sure I don't miss any trades or not. So the Giants in the fourth round pick, they took Clarence Jones. And let's see here. Actually, he had a nice long career. He played 10 seasons. He played till 2000. Unfortunately, once again, as with all the other picks, they all weren't with the Giants. What did he play? He played once again, 3 seasons with the Giants, and then he finished out his career with the, let's see, it looks like with New Orleans, Carolina, and the Rams. So he played 3 seasons with the Giants, did not start in any games. Actually, in 3 seasons with the Giants, he played 10 games for the Giants. He played in 10 games, did not start a game for the New York Giants. But somehow he played until 2000 with other teams. He started in 16 games in 94, 16 games in 96, 15 in 97, 14 in 98, 16 in 99, and 11 in 2000. He started 11 games in 2000, but for some reason the Giants couldn't use him at all. And it's unbelievable. Absolutely unbelievable. I mean, it wasn't maybe so much also the picks were absolutely horrible. It's just that, when the picks were good, they still didn't keep the guy. So then in the 5th round, they took Anthony Moss, a linebacker from Florida State. He never played in the pros. Then I liked my man here. Okay, I liked him. In the 6th round, they wound up taking Corey Miller. Okay, who wound up playing from 1991 to 1999. Right now, I always liked him. He actually, he's probably might have been the best pick. And he played from 91 to 97 with the Giants, and he finished up his career. He had played 1 year with the Vikings in 1999. So, I mean, he played with the Giants for a decent amount of time. He started a bunch of games for him. So Corey Miller was, as far as what the Giants were concerned, was probably the best pick that they had. And he came in the 6th round. Then they took defensive back Simi Carter in the 7th round out of Southern Mississippi. He never made it in the pros. Now I get it. Now we're heading into the later rounds. I get it. So, but then they took Lamar McGricks, a defensive back who played 4 seasons from Western Illinois. Let's see. I mean, I don't really remember this guy at all. Okay, he played 2 seasons with the Giants, and he finished up his career 2 seasons with Minnesota. 1992, actually, he started in 10 games. I don't remember him at all. So let's see. Then they took the 9th round. They took Jerry Bolden. I think might have pronounced his name. Is a wide receiver from Mississippi State. He never made it in the pros. 10th round, they took Luis Cristobal, a guard from Miami, Florida. He never made it in the pros. 11th round, they took Ted Popson, a tight end from Portland State. Now, he actually played, it looked like maybe 5 seasons. I don't remember this guy at all. Did he play with the Giants? Nope, he never even played with the Giants. They drafted him. Actually, he didn't start playing until 1994. So he played from 94 to 98 with San Francisco and Kansas City. So he had a career. And just, once again, the Giants drafted him, and he played with somebody else. And the final pick in the 12th round was Larry Wonke, a quarterback from John Carroll, wherever that's at. Of course, he never made it in the pros. So, I mean, this is where the Giants, the cupboard started getting bare. Okay, guys started getting older, going to other teams and stuff like that. And, we were not replacing them. And there's a good reason why, the Giants did not do very well in the 90s at all. They went to, if you take away the Super Bowl season, they went to the playoffs in 1993 and 1997. Right. So, which just happened to be, Dan Reeves, 1993, his first year coaching. And then Jim Fossil, 1997, took us to the playoffs. But, I mean, other than that, the cupboard was getting bare because we did not have good drafts. And George Young's picks started going downhill. And that's, one of the big reasons why the Giants really struggled in the 1991, 1992, and beyond that season in the 90s. So Wikipedia here. Since 1991, the New York Giants was the franchise 67th season in the National Football League. Now, 67th for the Giants, 72nd season for the NFL. NFL started in 1920. Giants started in 1925, so the Giants are 5 years younger than the NFL. The Giants entered the season as the defending Super Bowl champions, but failed to qualify for the playoffs. They were the 8th team in NFL history to end their season as the defending Super Bowl champions and missed the playoffs. Let's not forget they did the same thing in 1986, right? 1986, they won the Super Bowl. 1987, the year with the scabs and all that, they missed the game. It was a game got canceled, never got played, but the Giants wound up 6-9. So, and they, of course, they didn't make the playoffs. And they became the first organization in NFL history to do so twice. In 1991 season marked the first season that the Mara family did not have total ownership of the Giants. Wellington Mara's nephew, Tim, who had inherited the half stake in the team that his grandfather and namesake had given to Tim's father, Jack, decided that he no longer wanted to be involved with the team. After 26 years, most of which had been spent feuding with his uncle over the team's operations. On February 2nd, 1991, shortly after Super Bowl 25, Tim Mara announced that he had sold his family's stake in the team to businessman Bob Tisch, the co-founder of Lowe's Corporation and former United States Postman General. Tisch did not take an active role in the operations of the team, instead choosing to focus on the team's finances. This enabled the Maras to keep control of the football side of the team and allowed Wellington Mara's son, John, to take a more active role with the Giants. The 1991 season also marked the first time since 1983 that the Giants entered the season without a new head coach. Bill Parcells decided to retire following Super Bowl victory, and general manager George Young chose to promote Ray Hanley, the team's running back coach, to the position instead of promoting defensive coordinator Bill Belichick. Belichick would leave the Giants soon after to become the head coach of the Cleveland Browns. During the Giants' previous season, Phil Simms entered the year as the starter and started the first 14 games of the season. In the course of that 14th game, when the Giants hosted the Bills, Simms suffered a severe foot injury, and backup Jeff Hostetler took over, led the Giants through the playoffs and their Super Bowl victory over those same Bills. Simms did recover from his injury and was expected to regain his starting position, but Hanley decided to make Simms and Hostetler compete for the position. Hanley made his decision prior to the Giants' Week 1 matchup with the 49ers on Monday Night Football and gave the starting job to Hostetler amid some controversy. Hostetler led Giants to 6 wins in his 11 starts, but broke his back during a Week 13 win against Tampa Bay. Simms returned to finish the game, but went 2-3 as the Giants started the remainder of the year, and the Giants fell out of the playoff race. So it was not a good season at all here for the Giants. I mean, they had a chance toward the end, but their offense was not very good at all. They they averaged 17.6 points per game. I mean, just very, very poor. They started. I remember the game. The first game it wound up being a heck of a build-up because you figure that it wound up being a contest between the winners of the past 3 Super Bowls, right? Because the 49ers won in 1988, they won in 1989, and then they faced off against the Giants, who won in 1990. It was the opening Monday night game of the year. Giants at home. It was an exciting game, tightly knit game. Giants would win 16-14. So things, we're going up against the 49ers. We're at home. We beat them 16-14, close game. We prevail. Okay, Ray Hanley era is off and running. Here we go, baby. We're looking for another Super Bowl. Not even close. Then the Giants would lose their next 2 games. They lost. The Los Angeles Rams would come into town, and in game number 2, the Giants would lose 19-13. Now, once again, we'll start seeing a little theme here where the Giants' offense is just not very good. I mean, in the beginning of the season, they scored 16 points, 13 points, 17, 13, 16, 20, 13.7 points, 21, 21, 14, 17. I mean, you're not going to win any games consistently scoring in the teens. The following week, the Giants would play the Chicago Bears in Chicago, and they lost 20-17. Now the Giants are 1-2. The Giants would beat the Cleveland Browns at home, barely. They would win 13-10. So now the Giants are 2-2. The Giants would go on the road and play the Dallas Cowboys. Now, the Dallas Cowboys really started becoming good in 1991. They were 11-5, made the playoffs. After 2 seasons prior in 1989, they were 1-15 with Jimmy Johnson. He turned them around in a heartbeat. So the Giants lost to the Cowboys 21-16. You know, the Cowboys wound up being a good team. We're a very good team. So the Giants are now 2-3. Then the Giants win the next couple games. They played the Phoenix Cardinals at home. They won 20-9. And then they would play the Pittsburgh Steelers on the road, and they would win 23-20. So now the Giants are 4-3. Okay, things are looking up. But the problem now is the Giants have to face the Philadelphia Eagles and the Washington Redskins. And the Giants had a hard time beating the Eagles, and the Redskins won the Super Bowl in 1991. So the Redskins were very, very good. So the Giants lost 4 games to the Redskins and the Eagles in the second half of the season. The Giants had a bye week in week 8. So week 9 and 10, they faced the Redskins and the Eagles in back-to-back games, and they would lose them both. Week 9, the Redskins came to town. The Giants just scored 13 points, and they would lose 17-13. If the Giants had any type of offense, they would have scored enough points. They, could have outscored the Redskins and maybe won the game. But the defending Super Bowl, the soon-to-be Super Bowl champions Redskins were a very good team, and we, just barely lost them at 17-13. So now the Giants are 4-4. Following week, they go on the road and they play in Philadelphia, and the Eagles just straight up bitch slapped them. Right? Eagles won 30-7. Very demoralizing. Very, very demoralizing. The following week, they played Phoenix Cardinals once again. The Giants could beat the Cardinals, but they couldn't pretty much beat anybody else in the division. They beat the Cardinals 21-14, so now the Giants are 5-5 once again. They were floating with like 500 the whole season. The following week, the Giants actually beat the Cowboys, who were once again, as I said, a very good team, because they finished 11-5. So the Cowboys came, the Giants played them at home, and the Giants won 22-9. Now the Giants are 6-5. And then the following week, they would beat Tampa Bay. So now the Giants are 7-5. Now, they won 21-14 over Tampa Bay in Tampa Bay, so they're 7-5. So now they're looking up pretty much the whole year. They're looking up at Washington. They're looking up at Dallas. They're looking up the Eagles. For them to make the playoffs as a wild card team was going to be very, very tough. So they had 4 games left. I mean, if they really wanted to have a good shot of at least making the wild card, they would have to probably go 3-1. And now they wound up going 1-3, and basically took them out of the playoffs. Now, the thing that really just gets you was in their 13th game of the season, which wound up being week 14. They played the Cincinnati Bengals in Cincinnati. The Bengals had 1 win at this point in time. They had 1 win. They were 1-11, and they beat the Giants 27-24. So you lose on the road to a team with 1 win. That's very demoralizing. So now the Giants are 7-6. Then, of course, the following week, the Giants had to place the Eagles. Eagles came to town, and the Eagles once again beat the Giants 19-14. Right. Then the following week, the Giants would have to face the soon-to-be crowned Super Bowl champion Washington Redskins. So the Giants went on the road in Washington. They lost 34-17. So now the Giants are 7-8. So now they're under 500. They would save a little bit of grace here. I mean, the game again, when they played against the Eagles, I mean, just to go to show you how horrible their offense was. And they're at home. They needed to win the game just to have, basically they were going to have to win their final 3 games just to have a chance at maybe getting a wild card spot. So when the Eagles played them in week 15, which wound up being the 14th game of the season for the Giants had 10 first downs. They had 84 yards passing. They had 67 yards rushing. But I mean, it was just after Hostetler was injured, so Phil Simms came in, and Phil Simms was what was he? I mean, it was so bad we lost to Jeff Kemp of the Eagles. I mean, that's how bad it was at home. Phil Simms was 7 out of 23. He had 100 yards passing, 7 out of 23. He threw 2 interceptions. He got sacked 4 times. I mean, it was just absolutely horrible. Absolutely horrible. I mean, a gutless, pathetic performance. The Giants had 151 yards of offense. Absolutely horrible. So that said, so now the Giants going into the final game of the season were 7-8. They did save a little bit of face though, because the final game of the season was on a Saturday. Houston came to town. Houston was very, very good. Houston went to the playoffs. Houston they were 11-4. They came into town, and the Giants would wind up beating them. Giants beat them 24-20. So the Oilers wind up with a record of 11-5, but they were 11-4 coming in, and the Giants wind up winning. So they wind up, the Giants were winning. What was it, 24-6 going into the final quarter, and the Oilers scored 2 touchdowns, and the Giants would hold on for a 24-20 win. But so the Giants finished the record at 8-8. They saved a little bit of face. They didn't have a losing season, but then again, they didn't have a winning season. It was just, it was a down. It was one of those things that always kind of made you wonder if, maybe if Bill Parcells hung around for another year or two, could they have possibly made another run at it? Because they had a lot of the defensive players were still there. They still had the 2 quarterbacks. They had Sims. They had Hostetler. Could they have made another run? You don't know. I said, because the thing was, because the Eagles were very good. The Redskins that year were a very good team, and the Cowboys really started coming on. So it would have been difficult. But one thing probably for sure is that the Giants probably would have finished with a better record than 8-8 if Bill Parcells had stayed around for at least one more year. But it was not meant to be. So Wikipedia here. It says the 1991 NFL season was the 72nd regular season in the history of the National Football League. It was the final season for head coach Chuck Noll. He took over in 1969 for the Pittsburgh Steelers, and he coached until 1991. The season ended with the Super Bowl, right, when the Washington Redskins defeated the Buffalo Bills 37-24 at the Metrodome in Minnesota. This was the second of 4 consecutive Super Bowl losses for the Bills. They kept going, and they just kept losing. Of course, then they went in 92, and and in 93 they went back to back their losses to the Dallas Cowboys. So poor Bills, and they were good enough to get to the Super Bowl, but boy, when they got there, they got embarrassed. All right, so let's go over the AFC here. The AFC East. Buffalo, they won with a record of 13-3. Obviously they were a very good team, good defense, really good offense, but their offense was just something special. The Jets actually got a wild card. They wound up with a record of 8-8, and they got a wild card spot. Houston Oilers wound up winning the AFC Central with a record of 11-5. And then in the AFC West, 3 teams went to the playoffs. The Denver Broncos won with a record of 12-4. The Kansas City Chiefs were in second place. They got a wild card, their record of 10-6, and the Los Angeles Raiders got the final wild card spot there with a record of 9-7. So in the wild card round, Houston beat the Jets 17-10. In the other, at Arrowhead Stadium, Kansas City beat the Raiders. Barn burner here. Kansas City beat the Raiders 10-6. So in the divisional round at Mile High Stadium, Denver beat Houston 26-24. And at Rich Stadium, Buffalo beat Kansas City 37-14, sending the championship game, which once again became a barn burner. At Rich Stadium, Buffalo beat Denver 10-7. A real barn burner. But in the NFC, guys, I said, the Eagles just got nudged out. What do we got here? Atlanta, San Francisco, and the Eagles all finished 10-6, but Atlanta got the nod. They were the final wild card spot. It said Atlanta finished ahead of San Francisco in the NFC West based on head-to-head sweep 2-0. Okay, and was the third NFC wild card ahead of Philadelphia based on a better conference record. The conference record, Atlanta had a conference record of 7-5. The Eagles had a conference record of 6-6. So the Falcons just nudged out the Eagles and the 49ers for a wild card spot. So in the NFC East, the Redskins won with a record of 14-2. They were pretty much obviously the best team in football. They were, could score. They had a great defense. They were a very, very good, complete team that year. Dallas was in second place. Now, as I said, they were finished with a record of 11-5. Now, Jimmy Johnson took over. They were 1-15 in 1989. 2 years later, they went from 1-15 to 11-5. Absolutely amazing. In the NFC Central, the Detroit Lions won with a record of 12-4. Chicago Bears, they came in second place with a record of 11-5. In the NFC West, New Orleans won with a record of 11-5, and Atlanta, they got the final wildcard spot with a record of 10-6. So the 49ers did not even make the playoffs, but they had a record of 10-6 and didn't even make the playoffs. So in the playoffs, in the wild card round, Dallas went on the road and they beat the Bears 17-13. In the Louisiana Superdome, New Orleans hosted the Atlanta Falcons, and the Atlanta Falcons won 27-20. In the divisional round, Detroit played the Dallas Cowboys, and Detroit killed them 38-6. In the other divisional round game, the Washington Redskins played the Atlanta Falcons. Washington won 24-7, setting up a championship game, which was not much of a championship game. It was a horrible game. The Redskins won 41-10, just an absolute blowout, setting up the Super Bowl, all right, between the Washington Redskins and those Buffalo Bills. Now, this was really not even that close either. What was it? Let me scroll down to the bottom here. I mean, it was 37-10 at one point. Because it was Chip Lohmiller kicked a field goal with 11 and a half minutes to go in the game to put Washington up 37-10. Buffalo scored 2 touchdowns. Basically the last 6 minutes of the game, Buffalo scored 2 touchdowns to make it 37-24. But I mean, it was, it was not meant to be. I mean, the Redskins were a very, very good team. I mean, they were a very complete team. I mean, Mark Rippon, that was just one. I mean, he was a decent quarterback, but I mean, their team was just solid with Gary Clark, Art Monk, Ricky Sanders. I mean, those 3 wide receivers, Sanders, Monk, and Clark. Then, of course, they had Gerald Riggs and Ernest Biner. And they even had Ricky Irvins. He had 72 yards rushing in the Super Bowl. So, I mean, they were just a really complete team, as I said, and their defense was very, very good. So, the Buffalo Bills, they didn't get embarrassed in the 1990 game, but I mean, the next 3 Super Bowls were just not, we're not the Bills' cup of tea, shall we say. But yeah, the 1991 season was not very good for the Giants, and of course things would only get worse in 1992 as Ray Handley, the Giants team had a losing record, and Ray Handley would want that was his final season, and then the Giants would get Dan Reeves in, who had a lot of success with the Denver Broncos. Of course, but the thing was, he didn't have as much success with the Giants, but let's not forget when he was with the Denver Broncos and he had success, it was with John Elway. They couldn't win the Super Bowl, but, they got to the Super Bowl because, Reeves is a good coach, very intelligent, knowledgeable coach, but, he had a Hall of Fame quarterback, and the Giants did not. I mean, they had 1993 was the final season for Phil Simms. But then after that, they went with Dave Brown, Danny Canal, Kent Graham. Just not guys that are going to get the job done for you. And so that was kind of pretty much the downfall of the Giants. As I said, I mean, the thing is that George Young's drafts just started kind of going downhill. 1990, he drafted Rodney Hampton in the first round. Very, very good. Rodney was a great pick. But other than that, the rest of that draft was not very good. But then he started his picks. Let me. Can I go over them? Where are we at? Here we go. His picks. 1991, he drafted Jared Bunch, a fullback, with the first pick. 1992, he took Derek Brown, a tight end. I mean, from Notre Dame in the first round. I mean, this pick was just ungodly. In 3 seasons for the Giants, he caught 11 passes. I mean, he started in 7 games for the Giants. He was their number 1 overall pick, first round pick, and he started in 7 games for the Giants. I mean, just Absolutely horrible pick. I mean, as I said, this is where the cupboard started getting bare. So 1992, their first round pick was horrible. 1993, they gave up their first round pick in the supplemental draft to get Dave Brown from Duke. And he actually had a decent lengthy career, but he was pretty much a backup quarterback. But so they traded away their first round pick for pretty much a backup quarterback who did not prove out for the Giants. In the second round, they did draft Michael Strahan, so one of the greatest draft picks of all time. But their first round pick was not a good one. 1994, they drafted Tom Lewis, a wide receiver from Indiana. I think he had one nice season with the Giants. Let's see. He played 4 seasons with the Giants and his career was over. 1996, he caught 53 passes. But his rookie season, he caught 4 balls. His second season, he caught 12 passes. His final season, 1997, he caught 5 passes. I mean, this is your first overall pick, and he played 4 seasons. He caught 74 balls for the Giants in 4 years, and his career was over. Once again, another horrible first-round pick. Then we go to 1995. Tyrone Wheatley had a long, nice career. 10 years he played. But most of it, unfortunately, was with the Raiders. He played 4 seasons with the Giants, and in 4 seasons with the Giants, their number 1 pick in that 1995, that year, number 1 pick, he started in 8 games for the Giants in 4 seasons. 8 games. Absolutely pathetic. He had couple nice years with the Raiders. 1999, he had 936 yards rushing. In 2000, he had over 1,000 yards rushing. But, the Giants just, I don't know, couldn't get the best out of him, I guess. So he played 4 seasons and he was gone. And then, of course, one of the worst ones of all was Cedric Jones. They took a defensive end with pick number 5 in the 1996 draft. I mean, they could have had Ray Lewis, right? I mean, a couple of these guys here. They could have had Marvin Harrison. They could have had Ray Lewis. I mean, there's a bunch of guys they could have had, obviously. But they wound up taking Jonathan Ogden, got taken just before them. But they took Cedric Jones with the Giants. And he played from 1996 until 2000. The 2000 Super Bowl was his final game. He went to the Rams, I believe, and I think they wound up cutting him because he was legally blind, I think, in one side. He can only rush from the right side. He couldn't rush from the left side. And I think the Giants even knew that. And they still drafted him because they needed an edge rusher. So whether he was worthy of the 5th pick overall or not, they were going to take an edge rusher. So I'm taking an edge rusher, and we're taking this edge rusher. So, I mean, instead of taking the best player available, they took an edge rusher, and they paid for it dearly. He played 5 seasons for the Giants. His first 3 seasons with the Giants, he started in 3 games. Absolutely pathetic. Your pick number 5, 3 seasons, you start 3 games. Unbelievably horrible. As I said, once again, just goes to show you, I said the cupboard just was getting bare. It's just one horrible draft after another horrible draft after another horrible draft, and after a few seasons, the cupboard's bare, and therefore you have a bad decade. Thankfully, when Ernie Accorsi came in, he started drafting a little bit better, and the cupboard started getting full again. But George Young, he in the 90s, his picks were really, really bad, and it showed on the field because the coaches, whether they were good or bad, did not have good players to coach, and it showed. So that pretty much wraps up the 1991 Ray Handley season. Where the Giants finished 8-8, very disappointing. Didn't even make the playoffs. They were the defending Super Bowl champions. Didn't have a losing season, but they didn't make the playoffs. So a very disappointing season. So that wraps up that season. I'll be back with the 1992 season tomorrow, which just happened to be the 68th season in the history of the New York Giants. I'll see you then.